Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the launch of We Belong, the Migrant Integration Strategy for County Monaghan. It's a very auspicious day to launch this because today is the United Nations Day for World Tolerance. And we're going to beg your tolerance a little this morning because we have some gremlins in the works with regard to some of our speakers, so please bear with us. The day is very auspicious, and we've had greetings from a number of organisations. The first organisation is the International Organisation for Migration, and Lalini Veerasamy is the Chief of Mission in Ireland, and Larini has sent us a short video clip.
The International Organisation for Migration in Ireland is very pleased to associate itself with the launch of the County Monaghan Integration Strategy 2020-2023. At the level of IOM, we would like to re-emphasise on the importance of integration as a two-way process of mutual adaptation between migrants and host societies at all levels, from the social, cultural, political, but also economic point of view. Therefore, we consider that this integration strategy for the next 3 years is fundamental for this integration to occur in a very systematic and structured way. It's interesting to note that County Monaghan from 2002-2016 has welcomed a very important group of migrants, increasing from 5.8% to today around 11% of people living in County Monaghan of non-Irish origin. The IOM mission in Ireland stands ready to support the implementation of the strategy with the collaboration of course, of NGOs, of government partners working in the County Monaghan.
So that was Lalini Veerasamy, the Chief of Mission for the IOM. I'd now like to call on Councillor Colm Carthy, the Mayor of County Monaghan, to address our meeting and start the programme locally. Colm, it's over to you. You'll have to unmute.
Gurmahagat Francie, apologies for that. Well, just to start off by welcoming everybody to this morning's launch. I'll start by saying at the November meeting of Monaghan County Council, the members overwhelmingly endorsed the ratification of this new migrant integration strategy. This county, as you will all know, has a sizable portion of its inhabitants who were not born here and have decided to make their home here. Some may only be here for a short period of time, but the majority have decided to stay and raise their families in this great county. I genuinely know that this is a great county, but I'm also aware of section of society, a small group of people who are very vocal in their opposition to letting outsiders in. And that attitude cannot be tolerated in a county that in some aspects of our industry, like agriculture, food production, construction, etc., depend on workers from other countries to make up their workforce. We have a varied profile of migrant in County Monaghan, with a high percentage of those living here originating from Lithuania, from Britain, Romania, Poland, Latvia and other places. During the public consultation carried out during the development of this strategy, some barriers were identified by migrant communities. They include language, access to employment, education, healthcare, childcare, housing, culture and racism. So the aim of the strategy is to make improvements in our services and remove some of those barriers. It will be led by Monaghan LCDC and supported by Monaghan Integrated Development and Monaghan County Council. And the equality subgroup of the LCDC will engage with stakeholders to deliver on actions identified. They will also include an annual report on how implementation is progressing. The Irish people have made huge contributions to the world, and when we were given the chance to integrate into other societies, we were treated equal and fair. Let us not forget how we were treated and how that treatment gave us the opportunity to excel. Equality is the torch that lights the way to a greater society for all. In the words of Malcolm X, when you are equal with another person, the problem of integration doesn't even arise. We as a county as a community need to ensure that we have a sufficient integration policy and that it is properly implemented. I look forward to working with the stakeholders over the coming years as we move continually to improve County Monaghan for everyone. For Amila Magav.
Thank you very much, Colm. It's great to have the Cathaoirleach of Monaghan speaking so positively about migrants in our community. And some of those migrants are living in direct provision centres around the county, and we'll just share one of the short videos again with one of the migrants who is living in our community. This is Jennifer.
Culture awareness initiatives bring aware that there are different cultures. Accepting and embracing the different cultures, you must also observe and listen when dealing with diverse cultures as they all do things differently. Have good manners. Do not look down on other cultures. When you move to places that practice a culture different from yours, you must accept that culture do how things are done there, but at the same time, not lose your own culture and identity. For example, when you came to Ireland, there are certain things you now do that were not done at your home, and there are some things that you no longer do here, but there are some things you can't let it go that you have to hold on to. Don't want to lose your culture in the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Our launch today, I'll have to hold up the document, is a virtual launch, We Belong, and we're very happy to be joined by Minister Heather Humphreys, who is joining us on the phone. And hopefully this is one of the gremlins in the works that we're dealing with today. So hopefully, Minister, you can hear us loud and clear.
Yes, Francis, I can hear you loud and clear. And just first of all to say thank you for the invitation to join you here this morning. Of course, I just want to recognise the Cathaoirleach of Monaghan County Council, Councillor Colm Carthy. I didn't get to hear I think Colm may have been speaking previously. I'm sorry, I didn't get to hear what he said there. And of course, the other members of the group this morning. So good morning to everybody. And as you can see, there's been a lot of wonderful work taking place in Monaghan Integrated Development, and I'm delighted as Minister for Rural and Community Development to be here with you this morning, albeit virtually or remotely, to mark the launch of the County Monaghan Migrant Integration Strategy and Action Plan 2020 to 2023. This is an extremely welcome piece of work, and the strategy and the action plan highlights the importance of a more equal and inclusive society, providing a real vision for migrants living in Monaghan. And it was great to hear that video played, and it absolutely sets out the strategic goals. That this strategy will facilitate a sense of belonging and a place where each of us can rightly call our home, and I think that's very important. And as I say, it was interesting to hear that lady speaking and saying that some things are the same and some things are very different here, and that's only to be expected. So we need to help people to integrate into our communities, and of course we also have to be conscious of the impact that COVID-19 has had on us as well, because the pandemic has thrown up enormous challenges across the economy, and it makes it far more difficult now for people to secure employment or indeed to set up a business. And COVID-19 has also made it far more difficult for people to integrate and to socialise and to get to know each other, and that's something that we all very much took for granted. And Ireland, and indeed Monaghan, of course, has a great track record in welcoming people from all nationalities into our communities. That Céad Míle Fáilte is part of our DNA, and of course, long may that continue. And so, as we heal the scars left by this pandemic, a strategy and action plan like this is most welcome. And I believe this is an excellent example of how leader funding contributes to an improved rural life for all. And it's also an excellent illustration of how the Social Inclusion and Community Activation Programme, or SICAP as it is known, helps to make projects like this a reality. And I'm told that the development of this strategy was included as a priority within the 2019 SICAP plan for Monaghan. And I understand too that's aligned with the Monaghan Local Development Strategy, which identified the need to support activities which encourage non-Irish nationals, migrants, ethnic minorities and host community members to socialise and effectively integrate into Monaghan communities. I'm also informed that the LEADER programme has supported 90% of the overall funding for this particular project, with the remaining 10% match funding coming from Monaghan County Council and Fáilte Jock. With the funding in place, research began in August of 2019, and today we celebrate the result of this great work with all the stakeholders in publishing the County Monaghan Migrant Integration Strategy and Action Plan 2020 to 2023. And of course, the main findings of this strategy and action plan has identified 6 strategic goals, each having a set of clear actions to be delivered over the next 3 years. And I do look forward to seeing the impact of this plan as the work progresses. So there's things like improving language skills to enhancing access to public services such as education and healthcare. The strategy and the action plan, as I say, is all encompassing, and it very much reflects the need of our migrant community. And I'm particularly pleased to see one of the goals focuses on removing the barriers for migrants to access employment and business development. And I'm also pleased to see that goal number 5 focuses on promoting integration within our communities. So just to conclude, I'd like to commend the work of Monaghan LCDC Equality Subgroup, as well as the SICAP and LEADER teams in Monaghan Integrated Development for implementing the initiative. And I want to thank Monaghan County Council for their support, as well as Fáilte Jock, KW Research and MCA Consultants. I too want to recognise the input of the cultural champions and all those who contributed to the development of this strategy that will undoubtedly pave the way for making County Monaghan a better place for us all. And I wish you every success with the implementation of this important strategy over the next 3 years, and I do look forward to meeting you face to face in the not too distant future. So once again, congratulations to everybody involved, and thanks to Francis for organising this today, and well done to you all, and thank you, Gura Mila Mahakav.
Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you for launching the event here for us today. It was great to have you with us this morning. Your partners in government in the Green Party would be delighted to know that the strategy is a virtual document. We can print a limited number of copies, but at the moment it's virtual. Yeah,
that's very good. Thanks, Francis, and that's important that we all try to conserve and scarce resources. So the fact that it's a virtual document is also good, and people can access it now, because but more than ever now we're more dependent on the medium of the internet or our phones, because of the way things have changed. And I'm of course very much promoting remote working and people using new technology as the new form of communicating with each other. So well done on that.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now we're on to another part of our event, but the gremlins are in the works here again, because I can see my screen is not changing. I'm just not sure what the problem is here, but I'll have to talk to my person on the technical side of things. And I think we're about to get the problem sorted here now. Okay. Apologies again. For some reason, we seem to have an issue. I'm just going to ask my colleague Michael in the control room to unshare the next video, and I'll see if we can get ourselves back on track here again. So Michael, if you can stop sharing. If we're not able to do that, we'll go to our next speaker at the event, who is Sunday Abel Ayodiji. So I'm just going to check now if we can get this to continue. It would appear to be maybe a broadband issue. What I'll do is I will get Abel online. I know that people can't hear exactly. You can see me now a little. You can see Abel's picture. My colleague Michael is sharing. For some reason, the sharing on my end has stopped. But I have got Abel at the end of the line. Abel, are you there?
I'm here, Francis. How are you?
I am very well. I'm grappling with technology here, Abel. Abel, you're very welcome along this morning. Abel is a member of the board of MID and also a cultural champion and the chairperson of the LINK project. And Abel is going to speak this morning on two topics. He's going to have one address on behalf of the board, and then he has some words himself as a migrant in the community. So Abel, if you can speak away.
All right, thank you so much, Francis. Greeting to everyone there. I'm pleased to be here today at the launch of the Migrant Integration Strategy for County Monaghan. Like Francis rightly said, my name is Abel Sunday Ayodeji. I am a migrant, a cultural champion, and also a member of the board of Monaghan Integrated Development. I will firstly like to speak on behalf of the board of Monaghan Integrated Development. Minister, Kahula, and invited guests. We all live in strange times, and there's nothing stranger than launching a strategy about integration and belonging, the culmination of much hard work by many organizations. In this online environment, where we can't even see who is in the same room with us, launching a strategy in this environment was a challenge, as you can see, but that's all it was, a challenge that needed to be overcome. Building strong communities, communities that give equality to all, communities that are all-inclusive is an even greater challenge, but it is too a challenge that can be overcome. This is why Monaghan Integrated Development is committed to working with disadvantaged communities across County Monaghan to make sure that our communities are inclusive for all. For over 2 decades, we have been working in partnership with the statutory authorities and other agencies to support the newest members of our community to make County Monaghan their home. This work has included supporting refugee resettlement, supporting migrant workers, supporting asylum seekers, and working with the wider local community to build strong relationships and networks between all. In recent years, our work under the Social Inclusion and Community Activation Program, SICAP, has sought to advance the voices of the migrant community to decision-making level in our community. The board of MID have worked hard to bring new communities' voices like mine to the table for the past decade. I currently represent the new community's perspective on the board of MID, a role that has been previously delivered by my predecessor, Larissa Klesnina. In welcoming the launch of this strategy on behalf of the MID board, I must pay tribute to the hard work and dedication of so many people who have helped it to come about. First, I want to thank the members of the migrant communities and the volunteers who have worked with them on projects like Fortress Chalk. Next, I want to thank the staff of MID and agencies that have worked closely with them. In particular, I would like to mention the work of Mary O'Rourke of MID and Kahal Grant from TUSLA for their work on the Cultural Champions Project, a truly unique departure on the interactions between a state service and our cultural communities. Next, I would like to thank the leader team for their support in getting the funding application for this project over the line, and Monaghan County Council and Monaghan Fortress Chalk Group for their great contribution. Finally, I would like to thank our partners on the LCDC and LCDC Quality Subgroup and the Community and Enterprise section of Monaghan County Council, with whom we will lead on this strategy in the years ahead. I also wish all the group charged with implementing these actions in this project success in the 3 years ahead. Building strong community is a challenge, but in you all, I'm sure that we have people who are equal to the task. And now, on behalf of the new communities, I'll say again a big thank you to Monaghan Integrated Development, Cardi Walsh Research and Associate, Monaghan County Council, as well as the Minister and Department of Rural and Community Development, and also the migrant community. For myself, I've worked in various capacities, facilitating and supporting integration process of migrants into various host communities in Finland and here in Ireland. But with my little experience, I can say Monaghan is on its way to building a very colorful and diverse society, which would be a blessing to all. The launch and implementation of this strategy serves as an important step that will have long-lasting benefits in our county. In line with the goals of the National Migrant Integration Strategy, the overall vision of the strategy is that migrants are facilitated to play a full role in Irish society, that integration is a core principle of Irish life, and that Irish society and institutions work together to promote integration. I believe we should celebrate and clearly articulate the benefits that migrants and diversity brings. But while celebrating that diversity, we should also recognize that the landscape is changing. Actually, it's changing rapidly. And we should not shy away from asking and trying to respond to some of the more difficult questions that arise. A successful integration of migrants is in fact about successful interaction. It's about communities that are willing to offer a generous welcome. It's about the willingness and sometimes bravery to accept that welcome. And as this complex change evolves, there are people who do not feel comfortable with such. As a result, some people might feel the bias, even if the bias is unconscious. It is still equally capable of causing same gravity of harm as if it was done intentionally. The strategy is to help facilitate that migrants are able to develop a sense of belonging with shared values and local understanding, having underlined their roles to integrate and contribute to the local community. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that the action plans stated in these strategies, if you go through from page 40 to 50, you will see them well outlined there, that they are being actualized and that its implementation can be a continuous practice even after the 3-year time frame. Even within a framework of mutual tolerance, I believe that there are some non-negotiable rules that are understood by all groups, both new and established in County Monaghan. We must be clear and unafraid to say that we expect this will be shared and followed by all who live in County Monaghan. So integration and cohesion are not issues just for people from ethnic minorities, as we all know, but for everyone, for every member of the community. Most importantly, integrations must be presented and experienced as a two-way process, a partnership between the host community, our lovely Monaghan, and our colorful new communities. The strategies and plans are as good as the actions that follow. We belong in Monaghan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abel. That was wonderful to hear that from the migrants' perspective. Our next speaker on the event is Alan Johnston, and I'm going to see if I can bring Alan up. If I can bring him up without a picture, I will. If I can't, it looks like, Alan, we've got your picture on the screen, but the technical issues are plaguing us, so I can't get you on live. I can see you live, but for some reason you're not coming through. But the floor is yours, Alan.
No problem. Thanks, Francie. And everybody's welcome to this great launch of the Monaghan Migrant Integration Strategy. Cahirlock, Colin Carthy, Minister Humphreys, and I believe Minister O'Brien might also be with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome the publication of this strategy, which sets out Monaghan LCDC's plan to ensure the integration of all those who live in County Monaghan. The strategy wouldn't have been completed without the support of all relevant stakeholders in its development, particularly Monaghan County Council, Dr. Cathy Walsh and Alan McAdam, Monaghan integrated development, and most importantly, the contribution of migrants in Monaghan from varied circumstances and backgrounds. I'm proud to say that Monaghan is one of the first counties to deliver a migrant integration strategy under the current Department of Justice initiative. This comprehensive report incorporates real-world factual information which help develop focused and relevant actions. While the strategy is complete, the work really only begins now. I, along with the LCDC, are determined to implement the challenging actions in this report, which will lead to greater opportunities for migrants and make life better for everybody in the community. So I look forward to working with our partners and migrants to implement this very comprehensive strategy, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Alan. That is great to get the input of the LCDC on it, and the Council and the LCDC have been great partners to Monaghan Integrated Development in the development of the strategy and getting it to the stage it's at today. Our next speaker this morning is Cathy Walsh, and Cathy is going to be joining us by phone because again we have an issue with the technology here for some reason. And the other thing that Cathy is going to do is she is going to talk us through, this is a unique challenge, she's going to talk us through a PowerPoint presentation that she can't see as it comes up in front of her live. So Cathy, it's a great day for taking on a new challenge.
Francie, it certainly is. Thanks, Francie. Oh, I'm not sure I should be thanking you, Francie, but anyway. Good morning, everyone. Cahirlock ministers, ladies and gentlemen. I would prefer if I could see you at some level, but here we are. And I'm going to try and present an overview of the strategy. And I suppose just to say I'm presenting it on behalf of myself and Alan. It's easier if one of us presents rather than two of us. I don't know quite how we manage a dual phone call. So what we wanted to do was just give you a sense of the different elements of the strategy. Obviously, we hope that you will read the strategy and get to grips with the strategy. But just if we go to the second slide there, the vision of the strategy is that migrants are facilitated to play, I don't know if you can go to the second slide, but migrants are facilitated to play a full role within the county. That integration is a core principle of life in County Monaghan, and the society and institutions work together to promote integration in the county. So that vision, I think, is central to the entire integration strategy. And the vision is a translation of the national vision. So it's taking the national vision and translating it into something that's specific to County Monaghan. And I don't think there's anything there that most people could disagree with. So if we go on then to the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit about the methodology that we used to prepare the strategy. And I suppose that there was a lot of involvement of a lot of different people in terms of putting together that methodology. So there was 4 different elements to the methodology. There was looking at what data existed, and so the data that was there in the census, and then any other relevant reports that were done within the county that we could use. And then obviously central part of plank of the piece of work was consultation with migrants. And we were really lucky to have the help of Abel and the other cultural champions to help with the facilitation and to engage with the various different migrant community organisations and individuals coming from different backgrounds. So we were able to avail of the community champions' language skills and connections. So it was a really important way of making sure we got to a good broad cross-section of migrants within the county. So we had 3 area-based meetings. We had different focus groups with different groups, and then we realised that there was some migrant groups we weren't getting to, so we did a series of interviews, and all the time we were able to avail of the knowledge and skills of the cultural champions. So that was really a really detailed piece of work that went on for quite a long time, but there was a lot of goodwill and a lot of really good work done. And then obviously the second central plank was looking at consultations with service providers. So we would have done an e-survey of service providers. So we got about 52 responses from service providers across the county, which we were delighted with. And of those, about 50%, about half, frequently work with migrants, and about a third frequently work with asylum seekers. We then did other workshops, and we availed of meetings of the Child and Family Support Network to get the views of the organisation sitting around that table. And we had various consultations at a number of LCDC meetings, which was where we were able to, tease out what the action would be. And the fourth element then was the compilation of the strategy. So we had meetings with the strategy working group, which is the equality subcommittee of the LCDC. We had meetings with Monaghan Integrated. We had various meetings to try and compile the strategy. And there was backwards and forwards feedback and revisions of the strategy as we tried to agree the actions and finalise lead and support agencies. So we finally have the plan that you can access today online. And an important part of that is we have a strategy, but we also have a very practical and implementable action plan. So that's just an overview of the methodology. So if we just go on to look at the secondary data, which is the next slide, and I suppose the primary secondary data that we used was the Census 2016 data. Now, it is a little bit dated because it's almost 4 years out of date now at this stage, but it was a good jumping off point for migrant numbers in the county. So I suppose the total population of Monaghan in 2016 was just over 61,000, and of that, 21% were born outside of Ireland. And we realised that there's just under 100 nationalities living in County Monaghan, with about 11.5% of people not having English as a first language. So that obviously throws up challenges in relation to language. And in relation to the most common languages spoken in Monaghan are Lithuanian, which is really very high relative to other parts of the country, where nationally you would see Polish would be more widely spoken, but in Monaghan it's very specifically Lithuanian, then Polish, then French, then a whole mixture of a range of other languages. So while we know Census 2016 gave us a good jumping off point, if we just go to the next slide, which is looking at the trends since 2016. So since 2016, we know that migrant numbers in the county are increasing. We know that from all of the different service providers working in the county are very aware that migrant numbers are increasing. And then within that, certain migrant numbers, certain populations of migrants are particularly increasing. So in the case of Monaghan, we know that significant numbers of people from the Roma community have come to live in Monaghan since 2016. And then if we just look specifically at asylum seekers, we know that the number of asylum seekers in the county has increased significantly. And then we also are aware that there's been resettlement of Syrian refugees since 2016 in the county. So while we have the census data, these trends fall on top of that. So we just go to the next slide. So in our consultation with migrants, we would have consulted migrants and we would have consulted asylum seekers as part of that group of migrants. So what we did is we looked at general migrant needs, and then we realised that asylum seekers had some very specific needs. So we separated out the two to look particularly at asylum seeker needs just as a subgroup of migrants. So what we've done here is we've put the needs identified by migrants side by side with the needs identified by service providers. And you can see that the two groups are saying largely the same thing, maybe with slightly different emphases. So service providers are saying English language skills. Migrants are saying English language skills, but they're also saying interpreters to help with accessing services and support. Migrants talk about information, navigating the systems, accommodation, transport, information on rights and entitlements. In the same way, accommodation, access to services are identified by service providers. So you can see that the two groups, there's a lot of consensus in terms of what are the key needs of migrants. And if we just go on to the next slide there, within the survey, we asked service providers particularly what they thought were the key challenges for migrants. And it's just quite an interesting slide. the thing that probably is striking is how many service providers identified language barriers as the key challenge, followed then by cultural barriers, feelings of isolation, prejudice, discrimination, lack of knowledge of services to access to housing. But you can see predominantly there the issue of language was key for service providers, and it was key actually for migrants as well, that those language barriers and maybe cultural barriers as well. We just go on to the next slide. When we were doing the consultations, we realised that within the migrant population, asylum seekers had particular challenges. So we looked at, as I said, we looked at asylum seekers as a subgroup of migrants. So their particular challenges often related to living in direct provision, conditions in the accommodation, language, getting access to particular services. Living in an institutional environment, particularly occupation, where you're not allowed to work unless you've spent a certain amount of time at the centre. And then within the asylum seeker population, there's people who live in direct provision, and then there's people living in emergency accommodation, direct provision emergency accommodation, which have even fewer facilities. So these two groups were kind of a subgroup of the migrant population, and you can see there on the right-hand side, the service providers that we consulted had a good handle on the issues and needs for asylum seekers and service providers. So I suppose what we did was we put all of this information together in terms of needs and challenges. And if we just go on to the next slide there, local actions. So what we did was we compared the two, we looked at the two, and we looked at what local actions could be done. Some of the changes need to be national, but what could be done within the county to address some of these needs of migrants and some of the challenges that service providers identified. So we came up with a number of key areas where actions were needed. So the first one there is language classes. There are language classes, such as job classes, were seen as particularly useful, but we needed more of those across the county, and they needed more resourcing in terms of how they're run. Education and training in relation to employment and work, and this particularly for asylum seekers when they get their status. Volunteering opportunities as a chance for migrants and people from the local community to support integration, healthcare, childcare, housing and accommodation, transport, integration specialists, and then integration with the wider community. So if we just go on to the next slide, what we did with those, with the input of all of the different groups that we've spoken about, we identified 6 goals, and the Minister referred to the 6 goals, but just to give you a pictorial representation of those goals. So we have, as I say, with 6 goals. Language skills was the first goal, access to public services, education and training, employment and business training, very importantly, wider community integration and acceptance, and then housing and accommodation as the 6th goal. So just go on to the next slide there. So we have these 6 goals where we know action is needed, but it's not really only just about setting the goals. It's looking at how we are going to work to get those goals. So once we had the areas, it was about looking at identifying the specific actions that we needed to get those goals. So Tom Landry, the footballer, I'm not a footballer by heart, but I really like this. Setting a goal is not the main thing. It's deciding how you'll go about achieving it and staying with that plan. So there was a lot of consultations at this point to look at what actions needed to happen. If you want to go on to the next slide, I'm just going to give you an overview, a very brief overview of the plan, just one slide, you'll be relieved to know. But just to look at, so this setting a goal, we had the goals, and then obviously we had to get all of the different service providers around the table to figure out what actions were going to be done across the different goals. So we ended up with a number of different actions in the different topics. So you can see there, goal 1, which was about improving access to language. we have 4 actions, and I've just included an example of an action. So it would be more conversational English language provision. So there would be, each of those actions then has a lead and reporting organisations, or maybe a joint lead. So you can see there in the column on the right, the organisations leading under this goal are Monaghan Integrated, Cavan Monaghan, ETB, and then you go down to public services. So there was 10 actions under public services, one of which included establishing a migrant intercultural forum. And here you had organisations leading up were Monaghan County Council, Monaghan Integrated, Monaghan PPN, the HSE chairman. So if you go down and see, we had 5 actions under education and training, 5 actions under employment and business development, and one of the examples of the actions there is improving information for migrant workers. And you can see then there's different organisations leading under that goal. So you can see that there's a cross section of actions. The goal with the largest number of actions is probably, not surprisingly, wider community acceptance and integration, because that's the piece where you have migrants and the wider community working together and coming together to look at building integration, build connections. So we've 12 actions under that, and a very wide range of organisations involved in there, including MID, the Monaghan County Council, PPN, the Joint Policing Committee, SIPSI, and the Sports Partnership. So we have a whole range of players, so integration becomes everybody's business when we're working at a wider community level. So if you just want to go on to the next slide there, so you can see, if you total up all those actions, if my maths is right, we have 38 actions to be implemented over a 3-year period. And I think the Coherlock would have referenced the fact that the action plan will be led, because it's important that this strategy has a clear home and clear strategic direction. So the action plan will be led by Monaghan Local Community Development Committee and the LCDC Equality Committee subcommittee supporting it. It'll be supported then by the community section of Monaghan County Council and Monaghan Integrated Development, who will endeavour to lead and make sure that the actions are progressed. And obviously this will be ideally in partnership with the Monaghan Integrated Forum once established. So you just want to go on to the next slide, please. So the first next step, that we have a plan, we have a strategy, we have an action plan with 38 actions, and I think the work is just beginning. So the first next steps, I should say, because I think we're going now into looking at implementation. The first next steps are to identify the annual priority actions. As I say, there's 38, but there won't be 38 done each year. There's a sequence to them. So identifying priority actions for each of the years. And then the community section of Monaghan County Council and Monaghan Integrated Development, hopefully with the Migrant Integration Forum in time, will lead in coordinating the plan implementation on behalf of the LCDC. An implementation report will be prepared annually to review progress and look at what needs prioritised, and the plan will be evaluated at the end of the 3 years. So it's been a pleasure for Alan and I to work on the developing this strategy and plan. And there has been a lot of consultations done. There's been a lot of goodwill. There's been a lot of people being very involved and committed to the process. And there is now a lot to be done. But as we see it, there's a lot of goodwill to get it done. So hopefully it will work well with all of the challenges that we face with COVID. But I think where there's a will, there's a way. So thank you very much, Francie.
Thank you very much, Kathy. And that's incredibly well done, considering that you couldn't see. Your slides were perfect in time with your delivery. So excellent. Thank you very much, Kathy. The hard work is now just beginning in order to implement the strategy. So that's the task before us in the time ahead. We're coming near the end of the event. We had a number of videos that we wish to show detailing life in Monaghan from the point of view of a number of migrants, but unfortunately our technology gremlins are still playing up, and maybe 2020 is just one of those years. So I'm going to call on Gabriel O'Connell, the CEO of MID, to say some last words, and we will try then, when Gabriel is finished, to play the videos, and then we'll close out the event. So Gabriel, it's over to you.
Thanks, Francis, and hi everybody. Kahiluk, Minister, and Cathy, and all our presenters this morning, and all our viewers. Thank you everybody for their time. Cathy gave us a very thorough outline of the work of the strategy and the challenges that lie ahead in terms of implementing that. And again, it was great to hear from Cathy all the goodwill and positive feedback that she got herself and Alan during the process of developing the plan. So that's great to hear, and once again thanks to Cathy and Alan McAdam for the work on that and working closely with us. Just I suppose the Migrant Integration Strategy is a very important report. It's particularly important for MID in terms of our brief under the SICAP programme and the LEADER programme from a social inclusion perspective. It certainly gives us an important roadmap for the way forward in the way we can deliver on the projects that we are charged to deliver. I suppose for the migrants in the county, it maps out their situation, their expectations, and I suppose how they will find a way in making County Monaghan their home and making their contribution to life in the county. And that's important. It outlines the vision, the goals, objectives, and a list of the key partner actions, which when delivered will make Monaghan a more integrated and culturally rich county. On behalf of MID, we are delighted to have been involved in the coordination of this strategy, which has really been a true multi-agency approach. A strategy of this nature must be a truly collaborative effort, both in its development and in its eventual delivery. As Abel said earlier, integration is a two-way process. I am confident that collectively we can achieve the very worthwhile goals and objectives which are outlined in this strategy, and to ensure social inclusion is at the heart of this strategy. The monitoring and implementation, which Cathy referenced there, of the strategy will be important, and the ongoing piece of work over the years ahead is something that all the key agencies, and we're delighted the LCDC is taking the key role in that. And Monaghan County Council and ourselves are very keen and willing then to support that effort. I'd like to thank a number of people in relation to the development of this timely strategy in a time of COVID, etc., to develop something like this and to ensure that proper consultations happened was a big challenge, and Cathy made some reference to that there. First, I'd like to thank our leader team, Raid Mohan, who initially worked up the project concept and secured the funding. The Monaghan Local Action Group for seeing the potential in this, and Alan, chair of the Local Action Group, made reference to it earlier, the 90% funding provided through the LEADER programme. That equated to 21,750. The match funding then, 10% co-funding, was provided by Monaghan County Council and Monaghan Fáilte. So again, we want to thank them. I particularly want to thank Bernie Bradley for her work and her support in making this happen as well, and bringing the whole package together. I would like to acknowledge the work of our SICAP team in bringing all the partners together, and in particular to Francis and the team for ensuring that the voice of the migrants were at the centre of the strategy. This also involved managing the engagement with consultants on a regular basis, and I think that proved to be very, very successful throughout the project. I suppose liaison with stakeholders, subcommittees, statutory agencies and service providers was really important, because we needed to get buy-in and agreement to the elements of the strategy. Finally, I would like to thank our partners on the LCDC, the Equality Subgroup and Monaghan County Council for the collaboration and commitment in the project. The development of this strategy was a real partnership effort, and the delivery of the strategic actions outlined in the strategy will require a real partnership delivery. In this regard, I want to wish all the agencies and our partners, and indeed our own teams within MID who are charged with delivering some of the actions. I want to wish everybody with the best of luck and commitment over the next 3 years in doing that. I want to thank Michael and Francis for their forbearance and hard work in putting today's event together. I think in the times it's in it, they have done an excellent job. Well done, guys. Finally, I want to thank our presenters for today's launch, Councillor Colin McCarthy, Caherlick, Monaghan County Council, Minister Hedda Humphreys, Department of Rural and Community Development, Alan Johnson, Chair of our Leader Local Action Group, and Abel Sunday, our board member and member of Link and Cultural Champions, and Cathy Walsh, consultant, and Alan McAdam. And I suppose everybody's contribution really has been important in this. Cultural, I suppose, integration strategies are emerging all around the country, and they are a response to a realisation that the makeup of our communities and our societies are changing. So naturally, how we all interact with each other also has to change. Just to say before I hand you back to Francis for final sign off, the Migrant Integration Strategy will be available on the MID website and can be downloaded for anybody. So that will be available from today. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. And just to say, the strategy, as it is a virtual document, it will be available to any group to get a copy of, and it'll also be available to download on the County Council website as well. In getting our strategy launched together today, we had a number of migrant videos that we had hoped to bring to you. The first we did see was Jennifer, who's in direct provision in South Monaghan. We also have videos from a number of other members of the migrant community in the county. Monta, who works with the Falchers Jock Group, Brandy, who works with MID, Jerome, who was a Congolese refugee in Carrickmacross, and Martin, who works with the community. Martin's from South Africa and he works with the community in Clonus. We will try and play them now at the end of the event, but we will also make them available to view online on the MID website and the MID Facebook page, and we can share them with anybody who would like to have a look at them. My final word of thanks before I ask Michael to play and we bring the whole event to an end is to Eric in Microsoft, who, despite his best efforts, unfortunately the gremlins beat us in the IT system. But I'd really like to thank Eric for his help and input in helping us to get the day's event together. And Michael, if you can play the videos, and we'll go out on those. Thank you, one and all.
My name is Monta. I'm a migrant and Monaghan is my home. I'm from Latvia and I came here many years ago as a child. I grew up in Monaghan and now I bring up my own kids here. Being a migrant, I have always felt different and not always being accepted in the community. Currently, I work in two community groups such as Falchers Jock Monaghan and Cosmopolitan Women's Group. Both of these groups help migrants integrate. Falchers Jock by providing English conversation classes, and Cosmopolitan Group by supporting migrant moms with small kids. By working with these groups, I have noticed providing opportunities ensure migrants know they belong in County Monaghan. This integration strategy will help organizations to make sure the work they do includes and welcomes migrants. And most important point I want to mention is treat migrants the way you would want to be treated if you were a migrant. You never know, your kids or your grandkids could become a migrant, and all a migrant wants is to be treated equally and feel like at home.
Thank you, Monta. That was Monta, who works with Falchers Jock. Our next video is Brandy from Texas.
My name is Brandy. I immigrated to Ireland with my Irish husband and children about 20 years ago. I believe it is important to welcome people and help them integrate into Irish society, regardless of where they are from.
And Brandy, as she says, is from Texas. It's just sometimes we lose sight that the vast majority of our migrant community in County Monaghan are from the UK. And Brandy being an English-speaking migrant. Jerome was a member of the Congolese community and took part in a music event with MID a few years back, and this was an extract from one of the songs Jerome put together as part of that event.
Week, yeah. I don't wanna look up because there's no love in my world. Every time I do something, people judge me. Every time I win something, people judge me. Yeah, 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 yeah. You need to tell them I'm not here for the money, I'm not here for the bread, orange juice, etc. Yeah, yeah. I'm here to help, but I can't help if you have a different vision of me. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So that was a short extract from Jerome, and he's expressing the same opinion as most of the migrants, that they wish to be part of the community. They have skills that they can give. Our final word on which we will end today's event is from Martin von Tonder. Martin's from South Africa and he works with the migrant community in Clonus, and in particular Martin works closely with those in the meat industry, migrant workers who are working to help the food supply in Ireland.
My name is Martin van Tonder. I'm from South Africa originally, and I immigrated from South Africa to Ireland with my family, my wife and 4 kids in 2017. And I've been living in Monaghan since. I myself worked in Monaghan conversation classes and started an English conversation class in Clones a year or so ago. What I did find is that a lot of the migrants don't speak English, and as such they struggle to do basic things as filling in documents, looking for work, placement for children in schools, medical cards. The list goes on. Simple tasks as asking for something at the shop, directions on the street corner. They always need help, and they always need someone to translate for them. I would like to say festivals happening where different cultures can come together and they can discuss the issues they have as migrants in Ireland or in Monaghan as a whole. There's sports functions, tournaments, the list goes on. So I'm very excited to be a part of this project, and I hope you will be joining us and enjoy the ride with us. Thank you. Cheers.
That was Martin, and as he said, I hope you will join the ride with us, help us to implement the strategy in the years ahead, and within the next short time, County Monaghan will be a place where we all can truly say that we belong. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attention this morning.